Starting out this hour, we continue our coverage of the National Defense Authorization Act, better known as the NDAA. 2 days ago marked a huge victory for civil rights advocates. A federal judge sided with the lawsuit filed by journalists and activists against the president, ruling that the provisions in the controversial law were unconstitutional. Specifically, the provision that allows the indefinite detention of U.S. citizens without due process. So does this indefinite detention clause not apply for Americans anymore? Well, not so fast. In a vote this morning, Congress shot down the strike from the provision of the NDAA. In a vote of 182 to 238, Congress voted against the amendment proposed Representatives Adam Smith and Justin Amash that would have excluded American citizens from the NDAA. So what does this mean for U.S. citizens now? And will the lawsuit gain traction, or is the issue dead? Joining us now to discuss more is Carl Mayer, attorney for the Mayer Law Group. Carl, things are happening so fast in this case. I was wondering if you can just give our audience a brief update of what is going on.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you, Ms. Martin. Thank you for having me on. I think that the reason things are happening fast in this case is that we're driving the agenda here. That Wednesday's ruling, the really extraordinary ruling by Judge Forrest, struck down the provisions of the NDAA, particularly Section 1021, otherwise known as the Homeland Battlefield Act, that would subject U.S. citizens to military detention. And nothing that Congress has done has changed that. So the status quo stays in place, meaning we won the injunction, the plaintiffs won. The government cannot detain U.S. citizens or even resident aliens. And so far, we have prevailed because of this litigation while Congress sits around and twiddles their thumbs. No wonder only 12% of the American people have confidence in the Congress in poll after poll after poll, because they're not standing up for the civil liberties of the people.
Why do you think it is that Congress voted against this? I mean, it seems like it's pretty widespread that this is extremely controversial, and this judge sided with you guys in the lawsuit. What is the reason that you think Congress is putting a hold on it?
You know, that's an excellent question, Ms. Martin. The government had an opportunity to present some witnesses in federal court in the trial that we had before Judge Forrest, and they declined. They didn't put in one witness. And I can't imagine why the Congress is doing this other than they are scoring cheap political points, they think, with their constituents because they want to be seen as tough on terror, when in fact what they're doing is undermining 200 years of American civil liberties law. And that's why we brought this lawsuit. That's why we were victorious. And let me bring it home for you, for journalists. What the provisions of the NDAA that we defeated would have meant would be that if, say, Ms. Martin had done a story that favorably commented on a Muslim charity affiliated with Al-Qaeda, you could have been deemed to be giving substantial support to Al-Qaeda. And under the NDAA, they could have put you in military detention without the benefit of a lawyer or a trial by your peers. They could have sent a black van in the middle of the night to take you from your home and send you right to military detention. And that would have applied to you, any other U.S. citizen, resident aliens in this country, even people in other states. It's probably the most anti-democratic assault on civil liberties since the McCarthy era.
Carl, you're right. I mean, it does kind of fly in the face of the bedrock of this country, habeas corpus. I mean, the reason why we distance ourselves from the British government initially, it is astounding that this went into place in the first place. Let's talk really specifically, because it is really confusing to a lot of people. Now that the new NDAA just got passed in the Congress, it's awaiting a Senate vote, it still has these provisions. Mm-hmm. And well, are they just indefinite? I mean, there's no expiration.
No, there's no expiration. But the provision that was in there in the prior one, and it is in the current one, was struck down as unconstitutional by Judge Forrest. And this means that that provision is null and void, and the government cannot lawfully detain American citizens or any other person without benefit of trial. And this goes back to an old Supreme Court decision during the Civil War called Ex parte Milligan, where the court ruled that even in wartime, as long as you're not a combatant, if you're a civilian, you are entitled to a trial by jury of your peers. That's just basic democracy 101. And this entire NDAA process has been an assault on that. And it's really It's unfortunate, but I'm so glad to be one of the two lead lawyers on the legal team that defeated this. I was honored to represent these plaintiffs who are journalists and citizens who have spoken out. And I think this fundamentally could start to reignite the fight for civil liberties, the successful fight for civil liberties in this country.
Carl, it is a great example of direct citizen action, taking it upon themselves to really challenge the power. Why, just out of curiosity, what is your personal opinion about them putting this provision in? I mean, it does seem totally flying in the face of American democracy, the bedrock of liberty, and, it really creates that chilling effect where they're bringing the war on terror right here at home.
Right. Well, unfortunately, Ms. Martin, it is an extreme an extreme endpoint, but it is part of a series of laws that have been passed since 9/11 that have expanded and expanded the power of the federal government and have diminished the civil liberties of Americans. For example, the Warrantless Wiretapping Act, which was passed a while ago, allows the government to wiretap without warrants people's phone calls throughout the United States. In the 1970s, even under Richard Nixon, the government could not do that. And what has happened is, by statute, you have the USA Patriot Act, you have drones now flying over American cities, you have police in American cities that look like they're in paramilitary uniform. I never thought I would see any of these things in the United States of America. And in order for us to continue to call ourselves the land of the free, we need to stand up for these liberties like our ancestors did. And enormous credit goes to Judge Forrest.
Carl, no, I was just going to say, I mean, Glenn Greenwald cites the concept of the invisible line, that there's a chilling effect in the country that you know not to cross this line, and when you do, that's when you know the government's after you. I mean, do you think that with this whole NDA, the indefinite detention provision, is it really stifling dissent? And do you think that people are becoming increasingly scared to dissent against the government because of this?
Right. Well, I think that is the intent of many of these statutes. I think that has been occurring. Judge Forrest focused like a laser on this in her opinion, where she wrote that these plaintiffs have standing even though they haven't been put in detention, because their actions have been chilled and their dissent has been chilled and their activities have been diminished. That is why they have standing to challenge this, because of exactly what you said. The net effect of this law is to brush back like a baseball pitch, to brush back someone who's at the plate. It's to brush back the civilians from exercising their rights. And fortunately, Judge Forrest fought back on this, and that's why it's so important to have a constitutional scheme that has a separation of powers.
Carl, I think what you said earlier is really important, that this really goes across, it's not just terrorists, it's not just domestic terrorists. I mean, it's every American who could be affiliated with whatever the government deems to be terrorist activities. I mean, that is really the scariest part about this. And I just wanted you to touch upon, a lot of people that I talked to about this say, well, Obama signed a signing statement and he promised that he wouldn't enact this. I mean, what does that signing statement really mean when subsequent administrations can enforce this? I mean, isn't that just kind of like a promissory note saying like, oh, I got your back, like, don't worry about it?
It's not even, doesn't even have the force of a promissory note. It's not worth the paper that it's printed upon. For example, President Obama said, first of all, that he wasn't really going to issue signing statements. Then he issued a signing statement. He said he would veto the NDAA. Then he didn't veto the NDAA. President Obama said that he was concerned about the provisions of the NDAA, but he signed it anyway. So the president has twisted himself up like a pretzel about the NDAA. There's no coherence to his position. There's no coherence to what Congress is doing, because if they really wanted to protect American civil liberties, they would pass an amendment that would dissolve this law. Fortunately, it's been blocked for now for a preliminary injunction. I expect it to be blocked permanently by the courts, but Congress and the administration should right now, and we're calling on them to do this, they should right now vitiate this law and get us back to a civil liberties regime in this country.
It is interesting, Carl. It really makes you wonder who's pulling the strings when, Obama says one thing and he does another. And we'll definitely be following this case. It is essential to follow. And thank you for your work on it. That was Carl Mayer, co-lead counsel with Bruce Arfin, representing the plaintiffs in this matter.